You are now watching the Vision News Network, your home for news on world evangelism all around the world. Please enjoy today's episode.
Hi, this is Noah Combs, your host with the Vision News Network. I'd like to take the opportunity to tell you what's going on with missionaries around the world. Last week we told you about Venezuela and the crisis there, and the terrible living conditions in Venezuela have caused many people to flee the country. The countries surrounding Venezuela have received an influx of refugees. Casey Bloom, missionary to Ecuador, fills us in on the situation.
Some of you may have heard there's some different problems and things going on there in the country of Venezuela, but what you may not know is that because of these problems, because of the financial situation, many people in Venezuela are leaving the country and they're moving to other countries in South America. One of those countries is the country of Ecuador. As a matter of fact, over the past year, over 500,000 people from Venezuela have come through the country of Ecuador, and just over 250,000 people have actually started living there in the country of Ecuador. So I'd like to ask you to pray for the people of Ecuador, pray for the Venezuelans there in Ecuador.
We now go to James Miyashita in Japan as he tells us about how they recently remembered the 8th anniversary of the tsunami and earthquake. James will report to us from Japan on what's going on now.
But this past week was March 11th, yesterday, here in Japan. That was the 8th year anniversary of the 2011 big earthquake that we had here in Japan. And so still a lot of people holding memorial services, a lot of people still trying to keep that memory alive. Please pray for us as we're here in Japan. Still many, many more people who pass away each year without the knowledge of Jesus Christ or what he's done for them. So appreciate your prayers. Thanks.
Recently, there was an attack on Muslims in the city of Christchurch, New Zealand, in a mosque. This attack has caused a lot of uproar in the Muslim community. Even though it happened in New Zealand, it may also affect things going on in the country of Turkey. Dustin Brown will now explain to us the situation.
This week in New Zealand, there was a shooting where 50 Muslims were killed in New Zealand. In the country of Turkey, this has become a big part of the news because the president there, President Erdogan, is using this in his political campaign. One of the big things that's being brought out about this is the issue of Islamophobia. The shooter that killed the 50 people in New Zealand also apparently was planning an assassination attempt against President Erdogan and had a fixation upon the former Ottoman Empire that was there in Turkey. This is a very big deal for us as Christians because we need to be praying for the Muslim world. These are people who are lost and in need of the gospel. And this is going to shake up the Muslim world, and it may harden their heart towards the gospel, which is the opposite, obviously, of what we want. Will you pray that God would use these shootings to both open the hearts of the Muslim people to the truth of the gospel, as well as to open the eyes of the church, the need not to hate Muslims, but to love them with the love of Jesus Christ and with the gospel. Will you pray for the president there in Turkey, President Erdogan, that this does not push him to closing the country of Turkey up? Many times attacks against Islam in Turkey, whether literal attacks, political attacks, that Erdogan has felt have been a push against Islam, has caused many times the country of Turkey to become more restricted. Will you please pray for the country of Turkey, the Muslim world, and President Erdogan, New Zealand, that this will open up opportunities for the gospel and not close up for the gospel.
Before I began working as a director of Vision Baptist Missions, I had the privilege to work in Argentina. And I enjoyed it. God was good. God blessed our ministry. We had a wonderful time. But I found out when we were in Argentina that many times a young man, a young lady, someone would come up and say, Pastor, I really want to serve God. I really desire to preach the Word of God, to do what you're doing. And I would say, what a wonderful thing. But I found out that there was a lapse between their desire to serve God and actually getting into ministry. And that middle ground right there was their preparation. You see, a call to serve is a call to prepare their lives for the service of God. They're building that foundation so the rest of their lives they can serve God. So when we were in Argentina, we started a Bible Institute, later turned into a Bible college, where we can train young men and young women Here at Vision Baptist Church and at Vision Baptist Missions, we have what we call the Our Generation Training Center. It's not just a theological place where they can learn about New Testament survey and about Bible doctrines, about all these different things that they must know, that they should learn, but it's also a place where they can learn about practical ministry, where they can learn about how to learn a language, where they can learn about what to do when they start deputation and what to do when they get the mission field. So the Our Generation Training Center, it's that area that fits right there. Someone has a desire to serve God and they want to get to ministry, we fit right in the middle right there. The Our Generation Training Center exists to help young people get to the mission field and serve God with their lives.
Welcome back to the Vision News Network. Every summer, missionaries from around the globe participate in the training camp in Trenton, Georgia. Trent Cornwell here has been a part of this camp from the beginning, and he joins us to tell us a little bit more about the Our Generation Camp. Trent, could you tell us a little bit about the history of the camp?
I certainly can. I feel a little bit taller than you now. You want to come back up?
I think you're used to that though, right?
That is, than you. Thank you, Noah. Thank you guys for letting me be on the show today and talk about the camp, because I love camp ministry.
You did it right.
I have ever since I was a teenager. I was blessed, influenced by camp, but I loved Our Generation Camp, and I have been part of it since it started in 2004. And so, have you been?
I've never been to the camp myself, but I look forward to going for the first time this year.
Oh, good. I got one recruit so far. I'm looking for you to
That's
come.
good. He's actually really good
as
at this,
well.
guys. He's already convinced one person. He's
One
already
for
got
one.
me on board, so it's great.
That's right.
With all of his mischievous antics here.
So our first camp, which that's what you asked, right? When we started
Right.
in 2004, a group of missionaries had been training with Pastor Gardner in Arequipa, Peru. And while they were there, they thought more people would be involved in missions if they were just given an opportunity. So that was a burden of their heart. What kind of resources could we create? What kind of events could we create that would allow people, like you, Noah, to have a chance to be around missionaries and to see how it works? And so we started the first one in 2004, and it was exclusively for college-age students. We had, I think, maybe 110 at the first one. 86 of them signed a pledge to become missionaries. And you know many of them today, and missionaries around the world. It's pretty awesome.
That's great. So why should someone consider going to Our Generation Camp, and what makes this camp different than other camps?
All right. Well, that's a good question. Why should you consider going to camp? First, I'd just like to start kind of general. You ought to, as a teenager, we're talking about a camp now for middle school and high school students. We do have programs for college-age students throughout the year, but Our Generation Camp is for middle school and high school students. So let me start real general and say you should just be at camp. You should be at church camp, Christian camp, where your youth group is going. God will do something during your life that week when you get away from all the distractions that you often don't hear in your hometown. So getting away helps there. I believe we have all the great things that you'd expect at a camp at our camp. You have the games, you have the fun, you have the free time to meet new teenagers. You actually have good food, and that's kind of unique for camp. But you have all the fun, you have zip lines, tournaments, teams. You have all the things you expect to have at camp, Bible teaching. But what we have at our camp is an intense focus on making disciples. So we have missionaries talking about discipleship, and we're not only helping you grow as a disciple, we're telling you how you can grow as a disciple maker yourself. And so that's what makes us unique for middle school and high school students.
So you're not saying it's the best camp in the world, but it pretty much is, right?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get across without coming out and saying it. But if there was something I thought made camp better, we would include it in our camp. We're really blessed with a lot of workers and resources, and we just have a great place there. And it's only $200. I don't know how many camps you go to, but $200 is about as low in price as you're going to find for any camp. And we're able to do that because missionaries sacrifice their time and energy to be there at no cost.
That's awesome. So how does somebody go about registering for this camp?
They do it today. Have you registered today?
We gotta do it. No,
You do it today.
I
Okay. You could go to
I'm already in trouble for that. So.
Yeah. You could go to the ourgenerationcamp.org, and you could pick between 2 weeks at the end of June. Because last year filled up. We've been filling camp up for the last few years. So now we're going into the second week. Both weeks are going to be full weeks of camp with guest speakers and all the plans that we would have, full schedule. It just allows more youth groups to get in. So a big part of the camp's made up of youth groups, but it's also made up of individuals. Maybe it's one or two of you from your church would like to come to this. Maybe you also go to your other church camp, or maybe your church doesn't have a youth ministry big enough to take kids to camp, so you can come individually. But ogcamp.org will show you a promotional video and allow you to sign up.
Well, this sounds awesome. So Trent and I would love for you to join us at camp this year. He told you how to register and how to sign up, and we'd love to see you all there. Thank you. Thanks for joining us, Trent.
Thank you, Noah.
Good to see you. Well, thank you for joining us for this week's episode on the Vision News Network. Until next time, this is your host, Noah Combs. And as they say in Latin America, hasta luego.
Thank you for listening to the Vision News Network. We hope you can join us next time.